What if the world you trust is built on lies? Not always the kind that hurt, but lies, subtle, polished, acceptable, that shape how you see everything. What success looks like, what love is supposed to feel like, what it means to be good or strong or worthy. We grow up believing that truth is sacred, that honesty is the path to trust, to love, to power. But then life happens. You see someone get a promotion not because they worked harder, but because they talked louder. You see influencers selling lifestyles they don't live, leaders rewriting reality with a press release, couples smiling online and collapsing offline. The more you look, the more you realize we don't reward truth. We reward presentation, illusion, control. Because in today's world, truth isn't currency. It's a luxury, a risk, sometimes even a burden. This isn't new. Centuries ago, a man named Machiavelli looked at the world and dared to say what others wouldn't. That the most effective rulers weren't the most honest, they were the most strategic. That power doesn't bend to virtue, it bends to perception, and that the lie, when used wisely, is a tool of the strong. Machiavelli didn't hate truth, he just knew it wasn't enough. This is not a manifesto for deception. This is a map of how the world actually works, not how we wish it did. And if you've ever felt like playing fair is leaving you behind, if you've ever been punished for being real while others succeed by pretending, then you already know the central question Machiavelli forces us to ask. Is honesty just a story we tell the powerless? Or is learning how to lie, not maliciously but masterfully, the first step to winning a game that was never fair to begin with? Let's begin. We like to believe that humans are born with an innate pull toward truth, that honesty is our moral baseline, that deception is a defect, a glitch in the code. But nature doesn't care about morality. It cares about survival. In the animal kingdom, deception is everywhere. A caterpillar that mimics a venomous snake to avoid predators. An octopus that changes color and texture to vanish into its surroundings. Even birds that fake injury to lure threats away from their nests. Deception is not a failure of nature. It is one of its most refined strategies. And humans? We're no exception. Long before civilization, lying was a matter of life or death. Bluffing strength could avoid a fight. Hiding weakness could secure a mate. Pretending loyalty could protect you until the right moment to betray. Lying isn't an invention. It's an inheritance. As societies formed, the stakes changed, but the instinct didn't. Today, we lie on resumes to look more competent. We lie in relationships to avoid rejection. We lie on social media, crafting filtered versions of ourselves not because we're evil, but because we're afraid. Afraid that the raw truth won't be enough. And yet, we pretend to live by a different rulebook. We teach children that honesty is the best policy. We punish liars harshly, even as we quietly reward the skilled ones. There's a contradiction we don't want to face. The world is built for people who know when to lie, but it publicly celebrates those who don't. The honest person becomes the fool, the target, the martyr. In school, they're labeled too blunt. In workplaces, they're seen as difficult. In politics, they don't survive. We shame deception in words, but we celebrate it in outcomes. The influencer with fake followers still gets the brand deal. The CEO with a polished lie still secures the funding. The politician with the better story still wins the vote. So ask yourself, if nature rewards the deceiver and society quietly promotes the illusionist, why is honesty still treated like a sacred virtue? Maybe because it's safer that way. Because if everyone knew the truth about how power actually works, the game would collapse. So we keep lying about how bad lying really is. Not because it's wrong, but because it works. In 1513, a man named Machiavelli sat down and wrote one of the most controversial political texts in human history, The Prince. A book that shattered illusions. A book that didn't tell rulers to be good, but to be effective. And in that book, he wrote a line that still rattles the bones of idealists. A wise ruler must learn how not to be good. Not to be good, not to be moral, but to be strategic. Machiavelli wasn't interested in the world as it should be. He was obsessed with how power actually worked. He had seen empires rise on the backs of charm and manipulation and collapse because of sincerity. To him, morality was not a compass for leadership. It was a luxury that rulers could no longer afford. He didn't glorify evil. He simply revealed the truth that people are more moved by appearances than by reality. That perception shapes power more than honesty ever could. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. You've been told that honesty is the key to success, but what if that's the biggest lie of all?" In this video, we'll uncover why winning often demands deception, how power favors perception over truth, and what Machiavelli really meant when he said a wise ruler must learn how not to be good. So ask yourself, in a world built on illusion, can you afford to stay honest? Now picture this. A king tells the truth. He confesses weaknesses, reveals his plans, shows his emotions. The people see him as noble, but his enemies see a target. He's loved, but he's vulnerable, and soon he's dead. Another king lies. He appears strong when he's weak, united when he's divided, generous when he's calculated. The people follow, the enemies hesitate, and he survives. Machiavelli's insight was brutal, but it was real, and centuries later, that same dynamic has moved beyond kings and queens. It now lives inside all of us. Because today we are all rulers of our own digital kingdoms. We curate our truths on Instagram. We exaggerate our resumes on LinkedIn. We perform confidence in relationships. We hide our fears, mask our desires, and project personas that don't always match who we are. Not because we're evil, but because we've learned that truth doesn't always work. That vulnerability often gets exploited. That people don't follow the honest, they follow the impressive. So we learn to bend, to perform, to selectively reveal. The Machiavellian lie is no longer reserved for the palace. It's a modern survival skill. It's the difference between being liked and being chosen, between being real and being remembered. And maybe that's the most uncomfortable truth Machiavelli forced us to confront. That in the theater of power, it's not the truth that moves the crowd. It's the illusion that's believable. And the illusion that wins. Lies don't just work because people are gullible. They work because our minds are wired to protect us from discomfort, not to serve truth. We like to believe we're rational beings, that we make decisions based on facts, logic, and reason. But beneath the surface, the brain is constantly editing reality, shaping it, distorting it, not to reveal the truth, but to make it easier to live with. One of the most powerful forces behind this is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that confirms what we already believe. We don't want to be challenged. We want to be reassured. So when a lie feels familiar, when it echoes what we already think, we accept it. Then there's cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of holding two conflicting ideas. When the truth threatens our worldview, our brain often rejects the truth, not the worldview. It's less painful that way, and perhaps most persuasive of all, emotional storytelling. A lie wrapped in emotion is far more powerful than a truth wrapped in facts. A compelling narrative, even if false, can override what we know to be real, because it makes us feel something, and feelings stick. Neuroscience backs this up. The brain releases dopamine when we hear stories that align with our desires, even if those stories aren't true. The reward system gets triggered, and once that pathway is lit, it becomes harder to question and easier to repeat. This pattern starts early. As children, we lie to avoid punishment. We say we didn't break the vase, that we did our homework, that we didn't eat the candy, and often those lies work. They teach us something. The truth is risky, but a believable lie is safe. That lesson carries into adulthood. In school, a student who fakes confidence often gets more attention than one who quietly knows the answer. In dating, charisma often beats character. In business, perception becomes more valuable than performance. Over time, something strange happens. We start believing the lie we created, because perception, in many domains, becomes indistinguishable from truth. A politician who appears strong is strong until someone proves otherwise. A product that's marketed as revolutionary becomes one, even if it's not. And a person who carries themselves with unshakable certainty is treated as competent, regardless of what they actually know. So we have to ask, if the world believes the lie, does the truth even matter anymore? In a system where illusion is rewarded and reality is ignored, the uncomfortable answer is not always. Because when the brain favors comfort over truth, when emotion overrides logic, when perception shapes consequence, the truth doesn't just lose, it disappears. Today, the lie is no longer something we hide. It's something we design, something we polish, something we promote. Because in the modern world, identity is branding, and branding is, by its very nature, a curated illusion. Scroll through social media, look at the perfect bodies, the luxury vacations, the relentless positivity. Look at the hustle, the glow-ups, the filtered ambition. Behind every post is a carefully constructed version of a life, not the life itself. A version designed to be desirable, marketable, safe. We no longer just lie to others, we lie as ourselves. This isn't about deception for evil, it's about adaptation, a kind of psychological camouflage. In a hyper-competitive, attention-starved culture, to survive means to be seen. And to be seen, you have to perform. You have to shape your image into something people want, or at least won't question. So you smile when you're anxious. You brag when you're unsure. You simplify your pain into something relatable. You become digestible. Because being real, truly real, is risky. Vulnerability can be ignored. Authenticity can be used against you. In many spaces, honesty isn't rewarded, it's punished. Even corporations understand this. Branding teams craft authenticity strategies. Politicians rehearse empathy. Influencers stage messiness to appear more relatable. It's all PR, even when it's pretending not to be. And the most disturbing part? We've normalized it. We don't expect truth anymore. We expect polish. We don't seek reality. We seek resonance. Not what is real, but what feels real enough. Even our closest relationships aren't immune. Friends hide truths to avoid discomfort. Partners avoid confrontation to maintain peace. People pretend to be okay, not to deceive, but to belong. Because sometimes telling the truth means losing connection. And in a world so hungry for belonging, that's a price too high. So we lie, and we accept the lies of others. Not because we're cruel, but because we're tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of shouting the truth into a world that only listens when it's entertained. And so the lie becomes the costume we wear just to be part of the show. But here's the question that haunts it all. In a world where everyone lies, does the truth even stand a chance? Does it break through the noise? Or does it quietly suffocate under the weight of what people want to see? Maybe the real tragedy isn't that people lie. It's that we built a system where lying is the only way to be seen. And the truth, it doesn't get silenced. It just becomes invisible. All lies come with a cost, but not all costs are visible. We often talk about lying in terms of gain, more power, more attention, more influence. But there's a side we don't discuss, a deeper wound that forms not in the world around us, but within us. Because every time you lie, not just to others, but to yourself, something shifts. At first, it's small, a voice you ignore, a hesitation you push through, a part of yourself that whispers, "This isn't you," but you quiet it because the outcome seems worth it. And maybe it is. But then it happens again, and again, and again, until eventually the performance becomes your default. The persona becomes the personality. You've lied so well, for so long, you don't know where the act ends and you begin. This is what Jung called the shadow self, the hidden part of us we bury, the fears, the desires, the truths we suppress because they don't fit the image we're trying to sell. When you lie to win, you don't just deceive others. You fracture yourself. You become split, a mask facing the world and a self left in the dark. And over time, that separation creates dissonance, anxiety, emptiness, A quiet war between who you are and who you've become. You can win, you can rise, you can be admired. But inside, something feels off. You question whether people love you or the version of you they've been sold. You wonder if your victories are real or just products of your illusion. And the longer you play the part, the harder it becomes to take it off. So you have to ask, is there a way to lie strategically without losing your soul? Can you navigate a dishonest world without becoming dishonest within? That's the tension we live in, the paradox of modern survival. To be honest is to risk irrelevance. To lie is to risk losing yourself. There is no easy answer, only this. The more you win by being someone else, the harder it becomes to remember who you were before the lie. Let's be clear, this isn't a sermon on how to become a better liar. And it's not an excuse to manipulate without conscience. It's a wake-up call. Because in a world that thrives on illusion, being real isn't always rewarded. Being naive, being transparent, being entirely unfiltered, that's not bravery anymore. Sometimes it's a trap, and those who walk into it unprepared don't make it out. You need to understand the lie, not to become it, but to navigate it. This is where ethical deception comes in. Not lying to harm, but lying to survive, to protect, to move forward in a system that often values appearance over substance. Sometimes truth is a weapon, but sometimes silence is smarter. Sometimes you speak boldly. Other times you withhold, not to deceive, but to defend. There are moments when honesty opens doors, and moments when it paints a target on your back. The key is awareness. Machiavelli didn't say, be evil. He said, don't be stupid. Don't assume the world plays fair. Don't assume the truth will protect you. Learn to read the room. Know when perception matters more than accuracy. Understand when framing a story isn't lying, it's surviving. The difference lies in your intent. Are you bending reality to uplift or to exploit? To protect your peace or to control others? This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. Knowing that sometimes the purest form of strength is restraint, and the most powerful truth is the one you choose not to tell. Because survival in this world doesn't belong to the most honest, it belongs to the most aware. So here we are, a world built on illusion, where branding beats substance, where image overrides integrity, where those who master the mask are crowned kings, and those who speak plainly fade into the background. In this world, what is your truth really worth? If you want to win, must you learn to lie? It's the question we started with. And maybe now it's no longer rhetorical. Because the reality is harsh. Truth doesn't always triumph. Honesty doesn't always elevate. And in many rooms, it's not the most authentic who survive. It's the most adaptive. But beneath that, another question waits. A deeper one. What if winning isn't about becoming the lie, but about seeing the game for what it is and playing it with your eyes open? You don't have to be blind to be kind. You don't have to be pure to be principled. You don't have to lie to destroy others. But you will need to protect yourself in a system that isn't built on virtue. Understand this. The wisest among us don't lie casually. They lie consciously. They know when truth empowers and when it endangers. They know when silence is strength and when speaking up is survival. Because winning comes with a cost, and every lie you tell chips away at something. Your relationships, your peace, your sense of self. The key isn't to reject the game. It's to understand the game so deeply that you never lose yourself to it. You can lie, you can win, you can survive, but the moment you forget why you're doing it, the moment you stop asking who you're becoming in the process, that's when the lie stops being a tool and starts becoming you.